Hello everybody, and Jess here, and welcome back to Sasaki to Peeps-chan, episode 12, the finale. Yeah, we are going to be finishing another show. Yesterday I completed Frieren, and today it's time for Sasaki to Peeps-chan. Alas, everything ends, eventually. Some things get continuations. We will see how it will be in case of this show. I'm not sure if the studio made any sequels for any of the series they were responsible for quite yet. I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. In the previous episode, we met the bootleg Gakuto, bootleg Isekai Oji-san, call him what you will, the boss of Futari Shizuka, or, well, former boss of hers, who, of course, wanted to take her down because she now works for the organization, for the government, so she's a liability. So we had a little bit of a turn-based fight, and then Sasaki said, "Pinky promise you won't say, and if you don't, then I won't say," and the bad guy just went away. And that was the conclusion of the big final battle. And Isekai Oji-san apparently also has some ties with Akutsu. He got info about Shizuka's whereabouts from Akutsu, so there is some weird shenanigans going on of the government organization cooperating to some degree with the criminals. We don't know if it's just Gakutsu and Oji-san, or is it a much more like deeply rooted cooperation, or what exactly is going on there. We don't know that. But Oji-san is supposed to tell Akutsu that, yeah, Shizuka's not with us. You're free to hire her if you want. She's cool. And Akutsu will hire her. And that's basically it. And now we are facing a threat of magical girls. They are attacking the headquarters of the organization, and Sasaki got a call from Hoshizaki. "Come quick, they're attacking, help us." We could see Magical Pink there, and one more mysterious magical girl who we don't know who she is. I am almost willing to believe that it might be Otonari-san. She got herself into something and ended up as a Mahou Shoujo. But I wonder if that would be a little bit too convenient on one hand and too contrived on the other. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not really feeling that theory all that much. Doesn't change the fact that we don't know who the other magical girl is. So, it will probably be Sasaki and Futari Shizuka both, who helped the organization, Futari Shizuka, to get into their good graces, and Sasaki, of course, because he's Sasaki, because he's helpful, and he wants to help the organization, he wants to help Hoshizaki-san, perhaps most of all, and he also wants to help Magical Pink. He doesn't want her to die, I wouldn't think, so he will probably figure out some sort of a solution that leaves both sides largely unharmed, some sort of a truce, or a peace offering, or something along those lines that will solve the issue more or less permanently. We'll see about that. Anything else worth mentioning? Shizuka's boss, the Oji-san, has the power to create anything he can imagine, so that was cool. And he knows that Piercarlo can talk. And I really feel like that's something Sasaki would probably want to hide, but neither him nor Piercarlo really bother to hide it anymore. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We will definitely see where it goes in this final episode, so how about we just sit down and watch it? And to do that, you will need your subs to follow along with me. I'm gonna need my sound to hear what's going on in the show, and I'm gonna have to ask you for support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon or YouTube down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, it costs you absolutely nothing and helps the channel a lot. And now, with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from what? 3, 2, 1, go. I already wanted to end this episode, huh? That's the way it is when you just run on autopilot sometimes. Is it? That's some nice Harry Potter music. Yeah, we don't know the blonde one. So probably not Otonari. Why? Seems to me like you might need Piercarlo's support. Like, this is what you're facing. And I know that your magic is strong, but not quite as strong as Pierre's. And you're a psychic. Well, as far as anybody's concerned, you're a psychic. You're not really, but nobody knows that. OP? OP. Okay, I can open my kombucha. Rose kombucha. Reminds me of the rose filling in donuts, in Poland at least. Yeah, it's really good. I do have a tea, but it's currently way too hot for me to drink, so I guess this is also tea, isn't it? Simply fermented. Man, how I wish that this series had the sort of animation that they showed just, just now in the opening with Futari Shizuka and Magical Pink. Okay, how do we solve this situation? Also considering that we only have this episode left. Fly? Teleport? You have options. Yes, it was. Yeah. Which really boggles my mind why you left him home. They only know that you have the power of, what, ice? So you can't really beat them with ice, can you? You only have your Toku no Jutsu at your disposal. So I guess that would have to suffice. Okay, so the yellow is defensive and the pink is offensive. Is that a distinction here, or... Yeah, seems to be, because Magical Pink didn't summon her own barrier. For a psychic organization, you don't really have many psychics on scene. I expected fireballs to fly. Hmm. Can you create water inside? Can magic pass through the barrier? Right. He's not entirely beholden to the same laws, is he? That was actually a question I had. Are magic, Maho Shoujo powers, and psychic abilities different? Or are they just different forms of the same power? Fair. It's a win-win scenario, isn't it? What are you trying to communicate? Wasn't that a signal for hold fire? How can you be sure? You just interpreted Sasaki's hand waving as attack. Yeah, don't die, Hoshizaki. Okay, we have her name, Sayoko. Okay, I guess he called Akutsu, or Akutsu called him. Infinite water source, yes. They're gonna have to drop their barrier. Okay, so it's Magical Pink keeping the barrier up now. Yeah, they can just do that. More water. More water. Yeah, block them all. Easy enough for someone with ice powers. Can you touch them now? I guess so. Okay, one down. And the barrier down. One of them is still up and running, though. So maybe, like, don't get complacent. Retreat. Shield. Oh, Ice Wall. Okay, I guess he didn't reveal his identity. For what? Pay for what? He knocked her out while she was on a murder spree. Pay for what? You're just gonna let them get away, huh? Yes. As you know, he has water powers. Yes, I would have preferred that as well, instead of just letting them go. Because they apparently hate psychics for some godforsaken reason. At least Magical Pink, we don't really know the motivations of the yellow one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. Fair assumption. I guess he got word from the Oji-san. Yep, you're her senpai now. Whether you like it or not. What training did he even receive? Besides being spied on. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you've been her chaperone for quite a while now. So not like much has changed, has it? Are you sure this building is structurally sound? Are you sure you can be inside of it? Hmm? Probably yes. It's fair to assume that he knows your exact movements at all times. That's a very good description of him. Yeah, that was to be expected. I mean, yeah, she's probably the strongest psychic at the Bureau right now, isn't she? Buying 2 green teas. One for himself, one for someone else, or both for himself? Otonari? Otonari. Pierre's or someone else's? Better not. No. No, you're about as close as you can get. You're just dense. And also, many of objects of your like potential objects of affection are underage, so that's also a barrier in pursuing that. Can I come in? She's going to ask. Can you cast like a quieting charm, maybe? Something like that? Not great, actually. They escaped. The tail wag. Of course, the disclaimer again. It really appears every time it happens, doesn't it? Are we going for like a story so far reminiscing kind of thing? We are, it seems. Yeah, goal fulfilled. I sat in the cage. Okay, so there is a clear trend. Okay, so pretty much as was my theory, the time is like evening out. Yeah, it's probably her parents being abusive. That would be my bet. That's a lizard man. That's motherfucking Zaryu Sushasha. Okay, shit's going down, I guess. Mm-hmm. We're doing a gate. We're doing a conjunction of the spheres, aren't we? The time is leaking between those worlds. Why wouldn't other things? What if the psychic powers are the like echoes of like diluted magic that seeped into this world, and because now Sasaki is jumping between those worlds much more often, that stuff seeps even more, and rifts in space-time start opening, and monsters from the fantasy world start coming in. That's a theory that will not get a, you know, validity check in this season, because this was apparently the finale. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, and I can't really believe it's a finale either. Not like in case of Frieren, where I couldn't believe it was a finale because I spent so much time with it and I got so attached, but rather, I can't believe it's a finale because it really didn't feel like a finale, did it? It really didn't! Honestly! Yeah, it's just. Oh, oh, maybe that's gonna be the finale. Whomst. Father? Oh! Hello, demon! Alright. The way to drop a cliffhanger. What the fuck? What the hell? Let's watch it again, but first and foremost, I really need to check. Has like season 2 already been announced or something? Because this is like, I have. Yeah! Holy shit! Season 2 has been announced! What? Huh. Alright. There is no, like, date. Holy shit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not expect Sasaki to Pii-chan of all shows to get a second season. Curiously, at least not on AniList, I don't see the studio mentioned anywhere. I wonder why. Are they switching to a different studio, or... Yeah, because season 1 was Studio Silverlink. And Silverlink doesn't list season 2 as their show, so yeah, I guess either a different studio or they are still unsure about the studio they're going to use here. Huh. Okay. That kind of recontextualizes this episode as a finale, doesn't it? It's less of a finale and more like a mid-season break, right? Kind of like Gate, that technically it was 2 seasons, but practically it was a 2-parter, right? Oh, shit. Yeah, let's not drop this thick glass bottle onto the floor. Alright, let's watch this episode again, of course. Massive bombing, of course, and this time she brought a friend. We don't know who that friend is. Probably not Otonari-san, though. I guess that would be a safe bet. She will become some sort of a demonic apprentice or whatever. I guess that explains the crown in the opening, doesn't it? There is way too few psychics in a psychic bureau. From what I could see, only Hoshizaki was a psychic on the scene who could do some sort of psychic abilities. Really, nobody else. Nobody else. Everybody's just random mooks with guns. Really? I don't know, I really find that unbelievable. OP, OP, OP. Yeah, that's the crown that the demon dude had. And there we go. Yeah, Pierre Carl would probably be helpful, but the plan with water isn't quite as bad either. People in this world really like shooting at invincible barriers, don't they? When they were facing off against Shizuka's boss, Sasaki also created a barrier and they were just shooting at it. I guess it's better to shoot and, like, maybe it's gonna work than not shoot and think that it could have worked. Adults ganging up on children. Well, it really seems to me like you are ganging up on the adults. The yellow one is interesting. She's interesting in that I get Magical Pink's motivations, right? Psychics killed her parents, killed her family, her friends, everybody she loved. So she became a magical girl, she killed her Kyubey, and is now hunting down the psychics. Cool, makes sense. It's actually a really interesting motivation for her. It really is, because it also gives us a chance at not redeeming her, that would be the wrong term to use here, a chance at taming her, quote unquote, being, we're gonna figure out who was it exactly who killed your friends and your parents and your family, and we're gonna give them at your disposal. And hopefully that will satiate your bloodthirst, and you're going to not be a threat anymore, right? We have that sort of an out, where Sasaki could potentially organize that and do something about it to make Magical Pink not a threat, and perhaps even a friend, right? It's possible. I don't know anything about the yellow. I honestly thought that it might be Otonari, because Otonari has yellow eyes and her color scheme is yellow. But no, she has blue eyes. And if there's one thing that doesn't change across henshins, it's the eye color. But other than that, I really have no clue about her motivations. What makes her tick, why she even is here. It really seems like magical girls... Actually, we don't know the role of magical girls in this world, do we? We only know Magical Pink that kills psychics. Not anything else. Because I was about to say that the role of a magical girl is to help humanity, so why would she side with Magical Pink if it's not helping humanity? But maybe it's not the role. Maybe they're just getting turned into magical girls just willy-nilly for no reason, and now they get to exist in this form. and they have to find their own way. Or maybe there's a war going on in their magical girl world that they go to through this, like, rift in reality. Maybe. I don't know. Magical girl. There's something to Magical Pink here in this scene that reads as if she's wavering, right? Like, it really doesn't seem like she's taking pleasure in what she's doing. It really doesn't feel to me like it actually would be a revenge, like cold, calculated killing. It kind of feels to me like she feels like she has to do it for some godforsaken reason. And I might actually just note it down. Because maybe, just maybe, it's gonna be relevant. Metallic Rouge, Sasaki to Pii-chan. There we go. Magical Pink doesn't want to kill. Either feels she has to or is being manipulated somehow through threats, promises, whatever. Mind control. People can't pass through the magical barrier. Yeah, water probably can't pass either, and that means it can't pass from the inside. Good thinking. Actually good thinking, actually very good and innovative use of magic. Me likey. I generally always enjoy it when magic is used in an imaginative way. I really like it when someone creates a shield, two shields to maybe squash the enemy, right? Or maybe create a shield to trap the enemy inside, or use fire magic to turn on the sprinklers, and then use ice magic to freeze the soaked enemy, right? Stuff like that. I always much prefer it to just electric zap, and the enemy gets electrocuted. It's fine, but it's, I'd rather see some imaginative uses of it. And filling the barrier with water from the inside, good plan. I'd prefer to end this by neutralizing the pink one, right. And forcing the one using her magical field to retreat. So we know that it's the yellow one who uses the magical field, and yet I think she says, hey, magical pink, drop the barrier or we're gonna drown. Or does it go the other way? I know, I'm not sure. We have a plan. Grab their attention. Yeah, magical pink is called Sayoko. And later the yellow one says, Sayoko drop the barrier. And yet it's the yellow one who keeps the barrier up. Something doesn't quite check out here. Let's clear them up, she says. Yep, water. Sayoko, we've got to drop the barrier. Okay, so maybe it is her who holds the barrier, but she wants input from Magical Pink, and Magical Pink says don't drop it, so she doesn't. Yeah, probably. Yep, create an opening. Now, thankfully, they have a... Well, not thankfully for them, but the Bureau has an ice mage who can plug the hole. Also, suddenly very... very normal behavior from them. Right? Like, they actually look like two just random high school girls who can't swim, maybe, being in a huge body of water and being scared of that. Right? A very surprisingly normal reaction from them. genuine panic in their behavior, in their voices, first and foremost. And yeah, get knocked out. The magical man. Indeed. And they can just run away. I guess that's just Sasaki's modus operandi, isn't it? He let go of the Oji-san, he lets go of the magical girls. Next thing you know, he's gonna let go of the demon man. He's gonna let go of the general of the army attacking Kingdom of Hearts. He's just this kind of a man, I guess. I'm so glad third season of Arifureta was announced. I really need Hajime as a protagonist for a palate cleanser from other protagonists like Sasaki. Right, she has a spear. I was confused in this shot. Does she have like a butcher's cleaver or something? No, it's a spear. Sasaki was ready to cast his magic, but instead Hoshizaki did it and cast some ice, and his powers remain hidden, thankfully. I'm committing your face to the memory, and yeah, it's not the last you've seen of us. Yeah, we're gonna be back to murder innocent people. Good! Do that, I guess. I have no clue what to deal with the magical girls. Yeah. Shizuka is, of course, officially accepted as an employee. That's good. I guess he got word from his otaku lover boy, maybe. Public servant, and of course Sasaki will be the one to train her, and of course she's overjoyed about that fact. Yeah, are you really sure you should be inside of this building right now? It got a hole torn through it. Are you really sure it's structurally sound? No, like, load-bearing walls were damaged. No? No? Really? I don't know, maybe because it's a bureau of psychics. It's, like, built different. It's stronger because, oh, maybe a psychic just gonna explode spontaneously in the toilet, and the building is supposed to withstand that. Maybe. Water is Sasaki's. I was wondering why is he questioning that fact, but it makes sense. Sasaki's water was like small. He was able to create like a bottle of water, and that was already huge. That was already huge help for Hoshizaki. And now he just was able to manifest enough water to fill up a magical barrier. So of course he would be questioned about that. Thankfully we have the excuse of I used it and I learned it and it's better. Cool. Hopefully that works on Akutsu, but I think he's still suspicious. You were somewhere strange. And yeah, it's probably better to just reveal as much as you're willing to reveal, because any sort of a lie will just resurface. It absolutely will, with Akutsu's spying and espionage and sending drones after you and whatnot. Yeah, you're just gonna be caught red-handed. So of course it's better to say what exactly happened. Not exactly, but, you know, to the degree you're comfortable with. And of course he's gonna be officially Shizuka's chaperone. Continue to act in the interest of the Bureau. A couple of green teas. I guess right now he's just buying an extra snack specifically for Otonari. Wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. The red on her nose really made me suspicious. Where would she get hurt? There specifically, right? How could that have happened? Maybe during the fight, maybe she is the yellow one as she pinched her nose to, hold her breath. Maybe she pinched it too hard or got struck by something, or, something happened there and she's injured. I was honestly watching for any other injuries on her. But yeah, Sasaki says earlier that it's cold and shivers, so it's probably just cold. So that theory gets instantly thrown out. Yeah, young voice. She heard Peeps, right? Female friend, no. Androgynous voice, yes. I mean, it's Yuuki after all. It's Yuuki voicing Peeps. If you're going to have female company, take it to a hotel. No, she'd rather say, if you're going to have a female company, you're not gonna meet her anymore. And I'm gonna make sure of that. A snack bar and some green tea. Maybe I should move somewhere with better security. Sure. Maybe, probably, like a house would be good, wouldn't it? Right? No neighbors on one side or the other, plenty of room, storage for any stuff you might want to gather to sell in the other world. Right? Wouldn't be a bad idea to buy a small little house. Everything's going smoothly. We get the recap, basically, which is very finale-y, right? Like, you usually see stuff like that in the finale, reminiscing of the road so far. But I'm always, like, I almost want to say that it's undeserved, where it doesn't feel like a finale. It doesn't make me wistful. It doesn't make me, think of all the adventures we had. It absolutely doesn't. If Frieren, for example, had something like that, or hell, Shangri-La Frontier final episode, or whatever other show with, I assume, at least in case of Shangri-La, because I haven't seen the finale yet, something like that has a worthy finale, sure. This just seems like going by the book, right? What does a finale need to feel like a finale? Well, it needs a recap, so let's do a recap and check that off. I know. It just doesn't feel right to me, I guess you could say. And that reminiscing, right? Like, oh, at the start of our journey, I didn't have the money to buy Chateaubriand, and now I have. Oh, it's life's good, slow life, cool. Right. It really seems like whatchamacallit, not diffusion, evening out, equaling out the gradient in liquids or gases, for example, right? Like, you have a bottle with salt water and a bottle with clear water, and they're connected. Then after some time, both of them will have the same exact, amount of salt in them. The salt water will be less salty, and the fresh water will be more salty, and they will even out. And I really think it's the exact same way with the worlds. At the beginning, nothing was changing because you had those two bottles and you just opened the pipe between them briefly, so they didn't have that much time to exchange the salt molecules between them. But then you keep opening it and keep opening it, and more and more and more, and maybe you allow more water to pass through, right? More, like gold ingots, for example, more mass to pass between the worlds, so the levels of salt even out and the time dilation evens out because the worlds are more and more and more connected. That's probably why. Do I have it noted anywhere? Time dilation evens out because the two worlds get connected briefly when Sasaki jumps between. Yeah. And connected to that, time dilation gets more even, proportional to the amount of mass / volume carried between worlds, which would explain why the initial is like there's no curve, it's just straight, because initially it was just Sasaki and Pierre going between the worlds, but then they started carrying products from this world to that one and gold from that world to this one. So the rate of progression is faster. That would be my bet. In 6 months, a day here will be exactly a day there, which on one hand would solve issues with time dilation, right? You just wouldn't have to worry about it. Simply enough. You go between those worlds and you know that you have 24 hours before you need to go to work. So we go to the other world, you do whatever, you go to sleep, you wake up at 6, you go back to this world, and you are in this world at exactly 6. No problems, no issues whatsoever. On the other hand, although I really feel like it was unused, underutilized severely, on the other hand, you lose the benefits of the time dilation, right? For example, if one day here is a month in that other world, you could have a weekend retreat to that world and just rest for 2 months over the weekend, right? Yeah, not weekend. You really could just spend 2 months in that world over the weekend, and it would really be beneficial. It could really be used, and in retrospect, I really feel like it should have been used more. Maybe it still will, because the time dilation is still at the level of like what, 10-ish days? Yeah, 14-ish days. So sure, you could still take a day off at work and go to that other world and rest, but I guess it's something that would be really nice to have at the beginning of the story, where we were getting just metric ton of time skips and nothing else. I would really like to see Sasaki, for example, say that, hey, I'm just, taking the day off and coming back extremely well rested because he spent a month in the other world. Or like, I'm overworked, I deserve a break, but I don't have like days off. And there we go, a solution. Then again, he wasn't overworked either, so I know, I just feel like the time dilation is underutilized, and its only relevance is that it changes. And he was late to a meeting with Shizuka once. And that's basically it. That's basically the significance of this mechanic. She doesn't seem like the type to pound on the wall. I would check. Honestly, I would check. I don't know why Sasaki wouldn't. I guess he just doesn't like to get into other people's business. But I would absolutely, at this point, have assumed that she's living in an abusive home. She's meek, fairly meek for who she is, and she absolutely wouldn't bang at the wall. And I hear banging at the wall. Holy shit, her parents beat her, are beating her, or, something like that is happening. I would instantly assume that. And I would have, peeked through the wall with magic, for example, or whatever like that. But I guess not. I guess they'd rather just turn on the TV and ignore the world. Monster from another world, yeah, it's a Lizardman. I'm just going to note down conjunction of the spheres. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it's a term from The Witcher. There's a world of monsters, a sphere, world of monsters, there's a world of humans, and there's a conjunction. They overlay, and suddenly monsters are in the human world, or rather, the worlds have merged. And it really seems to me like jumping between the worlds might be speeding this process up. Conjunction of the spheres sped up by moving between the worlds. Or perhaps something like every teleportation leaves a trace or something that someone could like pinpoint and see, aha, this trace has coordinates to another existing world, and I'm gonna go there and do stuff. Maybe. And of course Akutsu is calling Ed. And meanwhile at Otonari's, I was fully expecting this to be perhaps Otonari's father or her mother's boyfriend or something, and she had to do something in self-defense. And she's going to run to Sasaki for help. And that's going to be the cliffhanger. But no. It seems like there is someone who teleported between the worlds, wearing a crown, a demon, supposedly, a demon, who says Otonari will be fighting angelic disciples on his behalf. Cool. Where are you from, little boy? There's like actually two different ways I can see it happening. Either he is from Pierre's original world, from the world of like Kingdom of Hearts, and that world gets more and more connected with this one, so the lizard man was able to make it through, he was able to make it through, and maybe he's the one who wages war on the Kingdom of Hearts, right? Their enemies do employ some monsters in their army, so maybe he's lending that power or something. Another interesting thought. Angelic disciples. They're magical girls. Angelic and the disciples are magical girls. Otonari has to fight them. Shit's getting more and more complicated, doesn't it? And yeah, I guess this is the announcement of the second season. It really is getting more and more complicated. We already have magical girls to deal with. We have the Fantasyland and the war inside of it to deal with. We have the psychics of this world to deal with. Now we also have monsters going into this world to deal with. Now we also have demons to deal with. I'm afraid that the creators of this show will just lose themselves eventually. Like, even with the amount of things we had going on right now in this very season, it really could feel unfocused at times. And hard to comprehend. And we're only adding more. Without really, like, subtracting anything. If we had something solved, like, I don't know, magical girls are friends now. Sure, introduce something new, absolutely. But without solving anything to introduce more? Yeah, I'm unsure. I'm gonna be honest, I'm unsure. We'll see how it goes, though, I guess. We shall see. And what we shall see right now is a look at my theories. Not that many, if we exclude this episode, of course. Right. Let's start from the beginning. Otonari is abused by the family, we don't know that. Abandoned by the family, we don't know that. / partially. Somehow special. Magic, psychic, isekai. She becomes special. She's not inherently special as far as we know, so I'm gonna say yellow, because she's somewhat special. She was chosen by the Demon King for whatever reason. Sasaki is special somehow. Lineage, birth ability, something like that. That's why he can use magic really good. No confirmation either way. Magical Pink is from yet another world. I don't think so, although that hasn't been confirmed yet. We don't know whether magical girls have their origin in another world or in this very one. Otonari-san is some royalty from another world. We don't know that? Probably not. Hoshizaki starts working interdimensionally for Sasaki. Not yet, maybe in the future. There's more worlds, each has different magic. Magical Pink's world has Megukas. There is more worlds, I guess, is like, sure, confirmed. The rest not sure. I still don't know whether it's the same magic everywhere or does every world really have different magic. Time dilation changes with magic used, we don't know that. Time dilation evens out because the two worlds get connected briefly when Sasaki jumps between. We don't know the reason. We just know that it does indeed even out. We just don't know why. Magical Pink can be domesticated with food, not yet at least. Akutsu and Four Eyes Guy are lovers, no confirmation either way. Otonari is magical yellow. I think that has been pretty well debunked. And the rest are the theories I had during this episode, so not many. Not many in general, huh? Oh. So. What do I think of this episode? Let's start with that. What do I think of this episode? Actually, though. I guess, as I said already many times, this episode yet again feels like an episode of a show that would be 24 episodes long. And I wonder if that was the intention, but they simply weren't able to finish all 24 episodes in time, so we're getting a split core. Wouldn't surprise me at all, because mostly of this episode's and other episodes really pacing. In this episode, nothing much has happened, really. No status quo has changed, almost. Shizuka is officially an employee. That has changed. The situation with magical girls hasn't changed. The situation with the war on the Hertz Kingdom hasn't changed. What else? There isn't even that many things to change, honestly. The only thing that has changed in a significant way is that Otonari-san will now also be magical, and that happened in the after credits scene. So other than that, this episode was very loose, very thin. Not bad, absolutely not, but very 24 episode season vibe-ish, for sure. The fact that we know that there is a second season kind of alleviates that. Yeah. I guess it kinda does. But all this time spent thinking that no, we're not actually getting more, probably. It kind of got me into the mindset of, yeah, they're just going to the season is just going to fizzle out. It's not going out with a bang, but with a whimper, and it kind of did. It certainly wasn't a finale in my mind. It was exactly like any other episode of Sasaki and Peeps. Exactly like any other episode. It was no different in any sort of way. We didn't even close any loose threads. Shizuka's employment, but that wasn't like anything along the lines of the main story. If we even have a main story in the first place, because I'm not sure that we do right now. I don't know, I expected something. I expected maybe Magical Pink to be befriended. I expected maybe Pierre's and Sasaki's secret to be revealed to someone. I expected maybe Otonari to be the magical yellow, and that reveal would finish the episode, and, you know, cliffhanger. I expected something. And I only got that something by the end, and that something was really just a cliffhanger. With the Lizard Man, and then with Otonari and the Demon Lord. Yeah. I guess maybe I'm a little bit harsh on this episode because it was supposed to be a finale. And I came into it with the mindset that, oh yeah, it's gonna be the finale. It's gonna, you know, change the status quo in something. It's going to do something. If I knew that it's a midpoint of a season, of a double core season essentially, I would be more lenient on it, because if you strip away the fact that it's a finale, it was overall a decent episode. It was perfectly within the parameters of Sasaki to Pii-chan. It wasn't exceptional, it wasn't super bad, it was just a Sasaki and Peeps episode. I really liked some things that happened. The imaginative use of magic, first and foremost. And the imaginative use of magic. Yeah, I liked that. That was cool. The rest was just normal, really. Decent episode, like any other, with a cool moment. Not much of a finale, though. Really not much of a finale. But that gets explained by the fact that we... Well, explained. Alleviated somewhat by the fact that we are getting a second season. And I guess those would be my thoughts on this episode as it is. Thoughts on the series as a whole so far. I say so far because, again, second season is coming. It's interesting. It's certainly unlike anything I've seen so far. In the first place, there are very few isekai anime or manga or whatever that do the travel between two worlds, or even a return to the original world. There's very few, and there is none that I'm aware of that involve even more worlds, and there is none that I know of that have a story in all of the worlds. The scant few stories, scant few isekai stories where the main character goes between worlds, jumps back and forth, that I have read, I have not seen, because I'm not aware of any anime in that vein, but I've read a couple of manga, usually have the main world, and that's usually the fantasy world, and the supporting world, which is usually the real world. For example, the character might go back to the real world to get a electrical generator or something and bring it back to the fantasy land or something like that. Right? The real world is just the source of otherworldly technology, the source of convenience, stuff like that. But there is clear main world. Not so much in the case of this show. Both worlds are main. There is a story in the real world, right? The story of the Bureau, the story of Sasaki's adventures as an inspector of the Paranormal Investigation Bureau. And then there's the story of the Fantasyland, the story of war, of trying to navigate the labyrinth of nobles and intrigue and whatnot, and magical events and shit like that. There is still in hiding, but perhaps will be brought more up to light in the future, the story of magical girls. That arguably is also a completely separate story, because I believe there is a magical girl world that we might even visit one day. So it's really interesting to me that those worlds are equal, in that both have their own story, their own characters. It's cool. It's rare. It's unique, for sure. That being said, it has the distinct downside of this show at times really feeling unfocused would be the good way to put it. I don't think so. I don't think unfocused is the correct way to say it. It would be unfocused if it was jumping between those worlds just willy-nilly thrice within the span of a single episode, and it doesn't do that. I would say it's closer to having a split personality, almost. Like, there's the story in the real world, there's the story in the fantasy world, and they're not really all that connected. Sasaki moving wares and money between those worlds, that's a connection. Elsa visited this world once, but to very little to no consequence. That was another thing. I honestly would have expected something more. I would have expected perhaps Elsa to become a regular visitor. I expected perhaps either Hoshizaki or or Sasaki's Kohai, the one who offered him a work at a startup, to maybe be dragged into it somehow and maybe be also a merchant, right? When Sasaki is busy with work at the bureau, someone else has to carry the merchandise there, so there's gonna be someone else, maybe. I expected something. I expected a little bit more connection. But I think, especially with the announcement of the second season, that we might be going for a little bit more of a slow burn. Like a really, really, really slow burn. Where we essentially go through two stories of two separate anime in parallel, and eventually they will merge somehow. And we can see those merges. We can see them. The first such a merge was, of course, Elsa. Another one was the Lizardman. There has to be something going on there. And I wonder if eventually Sasaki will have no choice but to notify the Bureau that, hey, conjunction of spheres is happening, and I know what's going on. Sorry for keeping the secrets from you, but yeah, now it's the time to come clean. I really wonder if something like that is going to happen, or perhaps Sasaki will create his own faction, quote unquote, to deal with that. Faction whose members will be maybe, I don't know, Hoshizaki and Elsa, and Otonari and Magical Pink, right? And it will be Sasaki's task force to solving interdimensional issues, or something like that. I don't know. But there's certainly a lot of potential. It's just way slower than I expected. Anything else? Characters, maybe. I like the characters. I enjoy the characters in this show. I like that Sasaki is an older gentleman, for example. I like that he's not a high schooler. That's like way too common. I'm glad to see an older man, really, honestly. I'm also glad that he's not an archetype of an overworked salaryman. No, he had a really decent job, actually. He's not overworked, he's not burned out, nothing of the sort. He's just a guy. He's just a dude. He's just normal. There's nothing particularly special about him. I really like it. I really do. All the other characters are also cool. I really like Shizuka, for example. I really like... who else is there? Pierre, of course. How could I have forgotten a character voiced by Aoi Yuuki? Pierre is great. I like that he absolutely seems to give no fucks about being a bird. I fully expected there to be some sort of a story that, oh, we need to go there and find this and figure out how to make Pierre a human again or something like that, right? Maybe there's a mysterious grimoire that we have to find, or maybe Pierre can't do some experiments, so Sasaki has to do that, all in the name of making him human again. No. No, he's perfectly comfortable as a carnivorous bird. He can use magic, he doesn't really need anything more from life. I like it. I like it. I actually like that it's not a plot point that he wants to become a human again. That's really cool. The supporting cast is all nice. There isn't really a character that I would actively dislike. Akutsu would be, I guess, on the like precipice of being disliked, but not because he's like a badly written character or anything like that, but I think we're simply not supposed to trust him. We're not supposed to like him. Right? And it really works out. He is grating at times, really is, and I think he's supposed to be. So I can't really say that I don't like him, because he works perfectly as the character he's supposed to be. Simply enough. Simply enough. Anything else? I guess the elephant in the room and the quality of the show. Yeah, it's not particularly great, I'm afraid. It really isn't. You can really see that it's done on a budget. There's plenty of stills. There's plenty of sliding PNGs. There's plenty of, hell, just aliased characters and things when the camera zooms in, and they didn't bother to draw a certain asset at a higher resolution so you see the individual pixels. There's plenty of that. The color scheme is also at times very... I don't want to say bland. Bland is general, but this is like something very specific. And it's not just the color scheme, but in general the art style really reminds me of those older anime that were perhaps read from like a VHS and saved on a floppy drive or a CD, and that CD gets scratched and then it got read and then it got transcoded to MP4 and uploaded on YouTube and watched on YouTube in 3 parts in 480p. Right? It's kind of giving me those vibes. Like sometimes colors are a little bit too dark than what I would expect them to be. Sometimes contrast isn't quite there. Sometimes the lines are blurry, right? It has those issues. So prevalent among the like older anime. Try watching, I know, the first episodes of Naruto right now. You will see something like some similar issues here. You really will. And yeah, that's certainly one of the biggest things that holds this anime back in general. We could really have some really nice fights. There's potential for some amazing combat scenes. There's potential for some amazing vistas. We do get some cool vistas. I really like those like terraced areas where Sasaki learns magic from Peeps. That's cool. That's an amazing place. I really like that. But this show really has so much more potential. If only the adaptation was a little bit better, I feel. Because some of those moments, like for example, the turn-based fight, it probably felt perfectly fine in the manga. It probably did. Because pacing in manga looks different. Every panel in the manga takes around the same amount of time. Like, you perceive a panel in the manga as lasting a specific amount of time, and every panel has around the same duration in your mind. So it probably works. But when you move it to a real-time medium, it doesn't. And that's where being able to adapt that fight would come in. To shift things around, change things around, maybe throw some dialogue out, maybe add some dialogue after the fight or before the fight, or right? Things like that. Things like that are kind of missing, I feel. I'm still not a fan of how it started, with a metric tone of just time skip, time skip, time skip, time skip, time skip. That really created a bad impression for me. I'm glad that they did away with it, that the anime just is real time right now. So that's good that they changed that. And I kind of have to question why they did it. Was it the same way in the source material, or did they just do it for the sake of brevity, or what exactly happened there? That's still something that's on my mind, even though it was like the first 2 or 3 episodes and not much more than that. Performances, though, are really good. I mean, Yuuki as Peeps, you can't go wrong with Yuuki after all. But also the other performances. Everybody sounds good. Everybody sounds like they should. Even in this very episode, in the finale, the performances of Magical Pink and the Yellow One were really good. You could really hear the fear and desperation in their voices. So it really feels like everything except budget just came in and was good, right? This show was kind of failed, quote unquote, by the art and animation budget, and I'm sorry to say, but by directing. I really think it could have been directed better. Anything else about this series as a whole? I'm still excited for the second season, for sure. There is still plenty of answers we are yet to get, and I would very much like to get them. There are still plenty of stories that weren't finished. Actually, none of them were, if you think about it. So I would really like to see that. And I'm cautiously optimistic about the fact that we don't get the date yet, and that we don't know the studio yet. Because perhaps, just perhaps, the producer, because I believe Kadokawa is the producer here, heard that, hey, it's a good anime, but it's kind of not looking great and not directed well, and we want more. The anime has like success, but it's criticized for its art style and direction, and I wonder if they will give it to some other studio or maybe change the staff around, because there's a lot of potential in it. There certainly is a lot of potential just unrealized, really. But still, what we get was fine. It's certainly not a mind-blowing show by any stretch of the imagination, but it's far from seasonal isekai trash. Very far from it. It's just a good show with a really interesting story, really interesting premise that was kind of failed by its execution. Would I recommend it? Yeah, tentatively. Give it 3 episodes. If it doesn't hook you by 3 episodes, it probably won't. But those 3 episodes just about might. I really wonder at times like this how it could have gone, like this season, how it could have looked if studios for some of the shows were swapped around, right? Like, what if Madhouse got this and Silverline or whatever the studio is here got Frieren? Would I be complaining about Frieren like that? Why did they time skip Himmel's death? Right? How we could have gotten those cool fights, but it was just a static PNG of Frieren sliding around the screen. Meanwhile, I'd be gushing over how amazing the individual hair animation looks on Sasaki's head right now. It's wild how much a studio and a budget can do for a story, doesn't it? Yeah, I guess that's gonna be it. I'm not gonna keep you any longer. I think I said my piece perfectly fine, and we still have another season, so if I, need to talk a little bit more about this one, I'm gonna talk about it during the second season. Probably. I'm probably gonna watch it, let's be honest here. But yeah, right now, I think that's gonna be it from me. But maybe you guys have something more to add on the topic of this season, this episode. Tell me all about it in the comments down below. What did you think of it? My reaction, my theories, stuff like that. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to be notified of future videos, not only Sasaki to Pii-chan, but also Yuuki, Yuuna, Majo to Yajuu, Metallic Rouge is still running, and other shows that will, of course, be still showing up, and there's going to be a next season I'm going to be watching, so stay tuned for that. I also stream sometimes. I'm going to be streaming my look at the next season soon-ish, so click the bell to be notified of when I go live. Support the channel, of course, if you want monetarily on Patreon or YouTube down below. On Patreon, for $10 a month, you get early access to non-seasonal shows like Yuuki, Yuuna, and for just $1, you get a role on the Discord and a place in the credits. You can also support me directly on YouTube via memberships, super thanks, super chats, stuff like that. And if you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, you don't have to. Share my content, spread the word, and it costs you nothing, and it helps a lot. And now, with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's my wonderful Patreons: QB, Without a Net, Survivor, Seiren, Absolution, Yuki, Ala, Ishtamu, Marcos, and Dr. What, Akamancer, Marsh, Fassel, and Hans Peter. And you can join them if you want without having to fight magical girls.